rise in the numbers of black people who ascribe to the Republican way of thinking has also come the criticism of being an Uncle Tom. I looked up Uncle Tom on the internet, and it is defined as a black person who is overly subservient to white people in general. Being an Uncle Tom was a coping mechanism used in the old days to accomplish selfish purposes. In the old days, when blacks were slaves, and to be black was in itself a problem, the black people who did what they could in order to have a better experience in life were called Uncle Toms, and that included being subservient to white people. At the time, the overwhelming majority of white people were of a certain ilk, and society in general had no use for a black person. This, in my view, was a very terrible time in American history. With the adoption of the civil rights laws and the elimination of laws deferring to white people in cases involving blacks, that is all gone by the wayside now. The thing that's left is now the psychological position held by many black people that there is a white power structure. The belief that black people as a group are monolithic and all think the same way is actually a detriment to the progress of society in general and many black people in specifics. The difficulty now that so many black people are mired in the old way of thinking that a few of those people who are not mired in that way of thinking are being criticized by other black people. In fact, looking up the definition of Uncle Tom, I find that Uncle Tom is a criticism that's heaved on blacks by other blacks. Uncle Tom was used to describe people who did things that were subservient to white people so they can have a better personal experience, and in a way, it was simply a choice that they made to keep themselves alive. Black people as an oppressed group at that time attributed certain characteristics to being black, and everybody else attributed those less than flattering characteristics to being black. Those days are gone. In the old days, a black person having a disagreement with a white person was automatically wrong. A black person looking for a job, competing with a white person, automatically lost. A black person who was a policeman even was thought less of than the criminal who was a white person. Those, again, were terrible times in American history. As an enlightened being, it's critical that you are present to what effect this has had on the people that you influence. The principle that even overrides the idea of being an Uncle Tom is a principle that everyone suffers from, black or white, and that is that we get up each and every morning of each and every single day finding ways to look good and be right. Granted. The black person who is not called an Uncle Tom is also looking for a reason to look good and be right. When he runs across a black person that doesn't see things the way that he does, he then has to find some explanation, doesn't he? Now, no one wants to be a critic, especially for free, and no one wants to be thought of as negative, but this is overridden by our desire to look good and be right. Hence, we criticize the black person that doesn't think like we do. It seems in this piece that I go back and forth between we and they, and that's logical because I happen to be a black person. I also happen to be a black person who may be considered an Uncle Tom by some because I don't buy into the narrative that overcomes the majority of black people, but it's not my job to be a critic, so I won't slam them. I only seek to enlighten, and the reason that this is important is that in order for us as a society to grow, we must get away from these old ways I think that we use to divide one another. Granted, the black community as it was years ago no longer exists, and I sometimes wonder who they're talking about when they talk about the black community. Now, I'm not alone in my assessment of this, and you may have friends that feel the same way that I do about this. If you don't feel the way that your colleagues feel about this, one of two things will occur. You will not have this person as a colleague because you don't resonate with this person, or you will find yourself looking good and being right by trying to straighten this person out in their misguided direction. It doesn't look like the racism that people complain about will ever go away, and if it doesn't look like it will ever go away, it is largely because of people's unwillingness to accept responsibility for the difficulties in their life and of course, profit. As a perceived leader, part of what you do is you actually have people accept responsibility for their lives. You as a leader have to accept responsibility for your life too. And if you truly want to be relevant, there's no place in your life or in your business for anyone considering themselves to be a victim. If this racism, if these complaints of racism is to go away, it will be the job of the intelligent person to usher it out. And the person approaches this problem by asking just the right questions. Questions like, what's working in life? What's not working? What's next? And what's missing? Asking those questions will force people to dig deep within themselves to find out what is the true source of their discomfort. What is the true source of their lack of happiness and or success? When someone examines themselves and looks exactly at their motives, they will not come to the conclusion that it results from anything that's outside of them. As they control more and more of the variables outside of them, they will have to face the inescapable fact that inside is where the problem is. Now, I started out this video talking about Uncle Tom, and the reason that I started out talking about Uncle Tom is a good one. Uncle Tom no longer exists primarily because the white power structure no longer exists. There are people who can make a case for anything, just like I'm making the case for this. And the people who make a case for the existence of the white power structure are simply black people who are trying to look good and be right in their assessment of why their life isn't working the way that they want it to work. Since there's no white power structure, there's no Uncle Toms, and the use of the epithet Uncle Tom is simply vitriol in disguise. People who use epithets and other forms of criticism are missing the point that when you criticize someone, anyone, no one goes, oh, I see. I didn't know that I was being an Uncle Tom. Let me stop right now and do what you want. Because you see, that never happens. What you resist persists, and whenever you criticize someone, either being an Uncle Tom or anything else that you can think of, the most likely thing that they're going to do is defend themselves. Those of you criticizing some black folks of being an Uncle Tom, I encourage you to evaluate that and see if it's one of the things that's been working. Now, if you simply want to spew vitriol, then you're going to be successful whenever you call somebody an Uncle Tom. But if you truly want to improve your world, truly want to improve our world and help society move in a positive direction, you will face your assessment of somebody being an Uncle Tom for what it is. It is simply anger and vitriol heaved upon them by you. So I hope that at least one of you watching this video is enlightened to a degree. Because like me, I'm sure you are looking for love too. When you're looking to give love and receive love, you don't get love in any way by criticizing people, especially calling somebody an Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom, like the word nigger, has no place in civilized society. When someone behaves in a manner unlike the way that you would behave, let's find a different way to describe it, and let's find a different way to assess it, and criticism is not the way.